Hey everyone, I'm Nessa,
And I'm T.
and together we are the Casual Fangirls. So today we're coming to you guys with a new video talking about the MCU's latest movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. All right, so before we go any further, I want to give a blanket spoiler alert warning.
Hit
So
him with it.
if you didn't see the other movies, it's not our fault. If you didn't see the Disney Plus shows, it's not our fault. Listen, we might even throw some Harry Potter or some Avatar Last Airbender or something like that in there. Not our fault, but we will try to stick to the movie. So without any further ado, T, take it away with our recap.
So, Shang-Chi, a valet in San Francisco with his best friend Katie, is ambushed on a bus ride to work. Shang-Chi's dad, a 1,000-year-old man with the power of a god due to the 10 rings, or the 10 bracelets, whatever you want to call them is fine, sent some of his henchmen to take Shang-Chi's pendant, a gift from his late mother. Knowing his sister has one just like it, he races to Macau with Katie in tow to warn his sister of their dad coming to take her pendant. In the middle of their heated reunion, their dad shows up. He takes the other pendant and escorts everyone back to his compound where he trains his fleet of assassins. During dinner, he explains he took the pendants and reunited his children so he can find the way to Tao Lo, a village in another dimension where their mother is from, who he believes is now holding her hostage as punishment for marrying him. Shang-Chi and his sister warn that he's delusional and they do not agree to help him. And in his stubbornness, their dad locks all three of them up. While locked up, they realize Trevor from Iron Man 3 is there. And apparently, their dad intended to kill him for impersonating him back in Iron Man 3, but changed his mind. They all escape and make their way to the other dimension to warn the village. There, they meet their aunt, who suggests the demon who is locked behind the gate, their tribe guards, is seducing their dad using their mom's voice, so their dad accidentally releases him. It's a little confusing, but it works. Their dad shows up and attacks the village. During the attack, he begins releasing the demon, and his henchmen decide it's best to fight alongside the villagers to defeat the demon. During a one-on-one with his dad, Shang-Chi successfully takes control of the 10 rings. Right as he gives them back to his dad and begs for him to give up this mission and come home to his family, the big bad demon is released and sucks out the dad's soul. Dad relinquishes the 10 rings to Shang-Chi before he dies. Shang-Chi then uses the 10 rings to defeat the demon, and they mourn their dad and the others they lost that day. The last scene is Katie and Shang-Chi retelling the story to their friend who doesn't believe them, all while Sorcerer Wong arrives to request Shang-Chi and Katie follow him back to the sanctum immediately. If you stayed till after the first set of credits, you'll see the scene where we see Wong, Captain Marvel, and Bruce Banner, not Hulk or Professor Hulk, Bruce Banner, asking Shang-Chi about the rings. They suggest when he used them, the energy was felt around the world, and the rings could be sending out a beacon signal to who or where they don't know. Then if you stayed till after the longer set of credits, you saw the scene where Shang-Chi's sister, Xiaoling, has reformed the 10 Rings organization by including women, new styles of fighting, and she did a mass interior decoration rehaul. And it looks kind of dope. So that is what happened in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. So Nessa,
Yes.
aside from the rings actually being bracelets, did you like this movie?
I love the movie. I love the jewelry wear. The drip was crazy. Stop it.
I was like, how he out here with bangles? Like, I could get those in the corner of Flatbush. Like, come on.
Again, the drip was immaculate. But I thought the movie was great. I loved it. Like, just overall, I thought it was a great story. I thought it was great character development. I thought the fight scenes and the action was great. I thought I was here for it. I loved it. I love a new origin story too. Like, drop me in the middle of like somebody's life and like let's see how. Like, I'm so for it.
I agree. I love the movie. I love that the movie made some choices that I feel like other movies aren't as brave enough to make, especially movies that have a very large children audience. One of those choices in particular, and we could talk about it later when we get to the plot, but the fact that Shang-Chi actually did go through with that kill mission, we find that out later on in a quiet moment with Katie. I was like, that was a dope choice to show that like he he wanted revenge. Like he wanted revenge for his mother's death, and he took the opportunity to do it. And then after that, realized that that wasn't the person he wanted to be, and so went on this like redemption arc within himself. I just thought it was a really bold and brave choice for the movie to not have him just like chicken out last minute, or I shouldn't say chicken out. They didn't have him like decide that it wasn't worth it before
Right.
he did it, but like after he did it. I think that's very true to how a lot of human nature works. Like you follow a feeling for a really long time and you go through with it, and then maybe afterwards a lot of the times you're like, I didn't really need to do that. So I thought that was really cool. But that was a tangent. I love the movie, loved so much about it. I, like you said, I loved there was an origin story. I loved that you didn't need to see the other movies in order to enjoy this movie. I really, 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 really love that about this. I enjoy the MCU as a whole. I think it's brilliant, the storytelling that they do, but to have a piece of art, this movie is a piece of art that is going to have such a cultural impact, not only pop culture, but like specific East Asian cultural impact. It's amazing that anyone could go to the movie and enjoy it for what it is without needing to sit through possibly 50 plus hours of movies beforehand in order to understand it. So
Right.
I
So
said
if
a
any
lot. Yeah.
fans out there were considering seeing it, but thought maybe I need to see all these other movies and all the TV shows to really get into it, you honestly really don't. You can follow the plot. You can still enjoy it just as well without seeing all those previous things before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what did you think about the characters?
I love the characters. I thought they were funny. The humor in it was so good. I love I love Aquafina. Like Katie, the best friend, is played by Aquafina, and she's just like so random and so funny and so amped up. And I thought she carried like along the movie well, and like gave us that humor, that relief that we needed throughout the movie. But Shang-Chi himself too, he had some. Yes, and not for nothing.
Talk on it. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. We did not even talk about this. Go ahead. Say something for the people at home. Go ahead.
Not for nothing. He's a looker. Okay. He's
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I love that the mom was whooping ass. The mom and the sister. The mom and the sister were whooping ass.
Don't forget Auntie.
Ooh, yo, was I the only one who had the moment in the theater who was like, when she popped up, she's like, I'm your aunt. And I was like, hey, auntie.
That's actually one of the themes I wanted to talk about was
Yeah.
like some of the interpersonal relationships and how the theme of like parents wanting you to do what they want you to do is like, we can talk more deeply into that, but quietly in the MCU, aunts are doing their fucking thing. Like I like aunts across the board, like Spider-Man's aunt, dope aunt, dope aunt, right? I wholeheartedly believe that if Killmonger would have grew up in Wakanda, Auntie would have been Auntie. Okay, she would have had him. Like that would have been her second son. Like I firmly believe that. What are the aunts we see in the MCU? I had another one and I forgot it. But in any event, the aunties in the MCU is doing way better than the aunts in Harry Potter because the aunts in Harry Potter are trash. Okay, absolutely. I told you I was gonna find a connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, Auntie, I loved it. I loved all the interpersonal relationships. I love the conflict between the siblings, between Shang-Chi and Xia Ling. I very much enjoyed that Wenwu, which is the father's real name that he mentioned once at the dinner table. I love that Wenwu wasn't like this hardcore, like, you are my son, you do as I tell you, right? Kinda, because he did lock them up for like not helping him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even when he was whooping ass, like he was whooping Shang-Chi's ass and then like stopping to make sure he was okay. Like it was this very, and you could see it all in his face. Like the actor who played him like did so much emotional work with his face of just like, get out of my way, I need to go save my wife, but also please don't be dead. But I gotta go save my wife, but don't be dead because I like you, but like my wife. Like I felt that a lot, that you know he just really wanted his family back. I enjoyed that it wasn't like a world domination thing. It was just like, I want my family, and I'm going
Right.
to do whatever I need to do to get my family back. So I really enjoyed that.
It's nice. So I guess jumping from there, we can get into some of those themes that we saw popping up, right? Because whenever there's family drama, whenever there's an origin story, those themes are popping up. And I think the big theme for me that I personally connected to was that theme around identity, right? Like becoming who you are and coming into your own. And both of us come from like immigrant backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that old school traditional, background from your parents and your family, and then you're but you're growing up in the US, right? That has its own culture and its own rule, like social rules and that kind of thing. And then it's like you're just trying to navigate and find your own way.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me really, really stuck out, and I gravitated towards that. What about you?
I would absolutely agree. Like the theme I wrote down was like personal development, like finding yourself, accepting and embracing who you are, the good and the bad. That was a huge theme in the movie. Mainly coming from the flashbacks with Shang-Chi's mom, but that was a huge part of that. And really, really what like stuck out to me was when Auntie said to him something along the lines of like, you are everyone that came before you. I think it was his aunt that said that to him. And really it was about like taking the strength from your history or your ancestors and making it your own. So that, like you said, really resonated with me, like having an immigrant father, having a mother from the States, being like Black American in the States, and like all of the tribulations that my ancestors went through, like really made me consider like, okay, like how am I going to build on that strength and like take it and make it my own in like present day. So I totally agree with you. I love that theme. I thought they executed it really, really well. We've seen kind of like, I don't know if I call this a coming of age story, so to speak, more just like identity, finding oneself. I thought they did this really well.
They did. I also love how many times we kind of saw this light and dark duality, whether it was like internally in the person, where we have Shang-Chi having this decision of, do I go out on this kill mission and complete it? Or, do I run away? Like, how do I handle that? And then even like you said within his dad, right? Like, I gotta save my wife, but don't be dead. So it's like, he's not this really evil person. Because even when Shang-Chi runs away and his dad finds him, we find out that he's like, I know where my children are. I just let you have your time. I let your tantrum cool down. And then I was like, all right, it's time to come back home.
Right.
So he's not like this completely evil person, but it's that light and dark balance. And then even looking at the dad versus the mom, and how she was so full of light and like optimism and happiness. And he was coming from like this death and destruction and conquering kind of background. And then when they came together, she lightened him up, and like, changed his whole personality. My man was like, I'm ready for a family now. I'm ready to settle down. What's up?
He put the bracelets away. He put them right in his jewelry box. And those were the bracelets. Okay. He put his bangles away and was just like, all right, let's get married. And she left her magic. Which, sidebar, I'm not giving up my magic for no man. I'm sorry. Like, we gonna have to find a way to make it work, because like with me keeping my magic, like to leave myself vulnerable.
I mean, but they would have never let him in the village. They wouldn't have done that. Even their fighting styles too were very. So he was very much like brute force, punch anything, and she was like flowy, like Tai Chi type movements going on, like going with the fight instead of like against the fight.
Very Aikido, yeah.
So Last Airbender right now. I was just like, Airbender, that whole village is airbenders. Yet nobody tell me nothing. That whole village is airbenders.
So what are the 10 rings? Fire Nation?
Yeah. He reminded me of Korra and Korra's like personality, because she was just like, force, I want to fight through anything. And if you remember, like airbending was the hardest and the last one for her to learn. That's who Wenwu reminded me of. I was just like, dang, he's trying to punch his way through everything. And then I'm thinking of Aang like floating around on his air sphere, like just hopping around and like whooping ass. And I was just like, man.
It was very reminiscent of the episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender where Aang enrolled in Fire Nation school as Kuzan, and the bully was trying to fight him, and he was like doing all the counter moves and like dancing around him and stuff, and he got in trouble or whatever. So yeah, I totally agree. I'm sitting here just like, would that make Xiaoling Zuli? I mean, not Zuli, Azula?
Yeah, because she had that anger, right?
She
At
had
first
some anger. She was a little bit more reserved than Azula, though.
she was, but like just more of like the source of like where her power and stuff was coming from was like she wanted to like beat up her brother and stuff like that. I mean, she came around, but you know, she came around.
I mean, when it matters, she saved Katie from falling off a building from the same bamboo. I looked this up. It's the same bamboo scaffolding from Rush Hour.
Is it?
No, I know. I made that up. But you believe it? No, it was very, as soon as I saw the scaffolding, I was like, Rush Hour. I know this, see?
For sure. Rush Hour. 100%.
It's a nice callback.
It was. So yeah, I mean, I think those were like the major themes that popped up, which are universal themes, right? So even though it's set in this is culturally Asian or Asian American, you still get these universal themes that everybody can connect to, you know?
Absolutely agree. Real quickly, plot. Any issues? Did you think it was fine?
I like the plot. I mean, I've only watched it once, so don't quote me on this. I might come later on and say something. But I didn't have any really major issues with the plot. I thought the characters were well thought out. I thought they had great arcs, all of them, like the whole family. Usually you'll kind of see somebody who's kind of like straggled behind where you're like, y'all could have done a little bit more work over here. But even like Katie had her own personal arc that was going on, and and then it tied her into the whole team, Shang-Chi, his sister, and her. So I loved it. I loved getting that new village, which happens to be like in another dimension. So that was a whole new thing. So now we've got like now we're expanding our MCU universe, right? Because now it's like, oh, there's villages in other dimensions. Okay. And then the magical creatures and all that stuff, which was very Pokemon-esque. I have to say.
You saw Ninetales too.
Ninetales, yes. I was about to say
right?
that.
You saw that, like when I went with the second time when I went with the boys, they was like Ninetales, and I was like, I'm assuming that Ninetales is representative of some mythical creature in like East Asian culture that this is supposed to be, but also they mimic Ninetales off of. But yes, Ninetales, fine.
For it to show up in like two different things like that, but look so similar, I was like,
oh, I absolutely believe it's modeled after the same mythological creature. I just don't know what it is.
True.
Yeah.
But I liked it. How about you? Did you find any like plot holes or any parts that you're just like, you know?
You're not gonna like this.
Ooh.
But okay. First of all, this is another point we were going to talk about. I loved all the visuals. I loved the visuals. I thought it was visually like captivating. I did not need the characters to fight the mythical creatures. Hear me out. I thought that the tension between the characters were enough to carry them through the end of the movie without needing them to refocus their energy and their focus on getting rid of the big bad demons or whatever. Like, I'm fine with it, but I almost wish that, and obviously we need to end with a whole lot of action, right? So like, I totally understand that as well, but I thought that the interpersonal relationships were strong enough and the tension and the conflict was strong enough to where I expected them to end with like a big showdown between Shang-Chi and his dad, which we kind of got, but then it like an extra 5 minutes was added on just so they can get rid of the big bad demon. And I don't know that was needed, if that makes sense.
I must admit, there was a certain time where I got battle fatigue. And I'm like, this is going on for a long time. But just as soon as I said that, that's when the battle ended. So I was like, okay. I guess that's true. I guess what they felt probably maybe like they needed something to bring the dad back around. So like he had to see for himself that it really was a demon behind the gate.
Yeah.
Oh well, I guess we should explain that too. So the village is in a different dimension, and the villagers are there to protect our universe and every other universe, I guess. I don't know where we're at. From these soul sucking demons that are trapped behind a gate. So they are the guardians of the gate. And so Shang-Chi's dad trying to break into the gate thinking that the love of his life is on the other side. They're like, no, there's soul suckers back there. So I think what it was that he needed to see it for himself to then finally be like, oh shoot, and then relinquish the 10 rings to Shang-Chi.
So here's just one comment on that, and we'll move on. I don't think he needed to see the demon in order to relinquish the rings. I think he would have I think if he was dying, if he got shot with an arrow, I think he would have gave the 10 rings to his son before he died, regardless of how he died. But I do agree with you that in order to stick with the storyline, they needed to finish that out. And it's like he needs to see the big bad demon. Even though I'm just like, why didn't he just look up and see the mini demons like pouring out? Like, but okay.
I was so focused on like I gotta get in there. He was still
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'll allow it. It's fine.
they had to bring in the dragon thing. And again, you get like, light and dark.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, can Shang-Chi breathe underwater? What is happening? Because he's been down there for a while. But we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there right now. Just let it be what it is. Two other things we should touch on.
No.
Huh?
One of our fandoms gave us a dragon under the village, is all I'm saying. GOT never gave us that dragon.
I knew that's where you're...
That dragon is under Winterfell. That's all I wanted to say.
So then who has the power to release the dragon that's under Winterfell? Like, is it like one of his Starks? Is that why a Stark always needs to be in Winterfell? We're not doing this right now.
Okay.
Like,
right.
do this right now. Because the question is like, why is the Night King trying to get to Winterfell? Is he trying to kill that dragon? Is that his dragon? I don't know. He got a dragon. Why do he need another one? So like, I don't understand why he would need a dragon that's breathing. So the theory is that Winterfell is in the middle of winter, but they always have hot springs. Like, what's heating the hot springs, right? So, and they like Bran the Builder built the... We're not doing this. Sorry, I was about to go into it. We're not doing it. Cultural importance of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I think we should comment on the fact that like this is a cultural phenomenon more than just like it being another installment in the MCU mega episodic like series that they're doing, but also that like it's the first movie to have a mostly East Asian cast in a superhero movie in the MCU, and I think like the world at large. It's like the largest superhero movie to have a almost 100% East Asian main cast. Depending if you say it again.
Yeah, in terms of mainstream like US production type thing,
yeah.
I mean, there's a whole... They got their own little Hollywood.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Where they have their own productions and stuff. So there's plenty of movies probably similar to Shang-Chi, better than Shang-Chi and stuff like that, that they're got on their own production side. But talking about kind of US produced Marvel installment is definitely the first that we've seen.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on how important that is. Like we saw like when Black Panther came out, how much that did for like the Black community and for inspiring all the young people and not young people. We're not too young, and I was inspired. Like I'm fully convinced, like in an alternate universe, I am the international student at Hogwarts from Wakanda. Like that's who I am, right? So like Wakanda was like everything for a lot of Black people or people from the African diaspora. And I imagine that is something similar for East Asian children or East Asian families who want to see themselves on the big screen. And not only that, like as someone who doesn't identify as East Asian, I felt like just from having friends that there were a lot of like cultural examples of like how they live and how they operate that I thought was like really important for people to see, like certain things that they hold really near and dear to them. And I don't want to speak for them, but like talking to my friends, it's like they have very specific ways that they like remember their ancestors or mourn their dead. And like we got to see some of those rituals in the movie. And I thought that was really, really important. So I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. I don't think we need to go into into any more like comparative analysis between that and Black Panther. There are two different movies, two different purposes, two different cultures. But I think the impact is going to be very, very similar when it comes to like how important this movie is to those who see themselves in Shang-Chi or any of the other characters in the movie.
And representation is important. It's great to see more people of color, full casted out in this type of, arena. So that's beautiful to see. So shout out to them for doing that. And I hope they keep doing it more and more. And like they start seeing that, listen, people want to be represented and represented well.
Yeah. Give me someone from South America. Easy. Give me a big bad. And maybe there's someone in the comic books that I'm not aware of yet, but like I want to see all of it. Like it's super, super cool to introduce other cultures that way. I think it's really cool. So to wrap up, last thing we're going to talk about, because we're running over, implications for the MCU. What you got?
Because we've got those after credit scenes, right? And everybody knows if you're gonna go see an MCU movie, stay for the after credit scenes. So we've got Wong, Banner, and Captain Marvel all together with Shang-Chi, Katie, and Sorcerer Wong. So first of all, Banner's not Professor Hulk anymore, and he's got a sling on his arm. So it's like, what happened here? And then finding out that the 10 rings are some sort of beacon to who, to where. We find out that they're older than what we actually thought they were. So there's some sort of magical relics, but we just don't know from where, and we don't know who they're calling out to. We don't know who's going to show up. So that's scary and exciting at the same time. So I'm just waiting to see where this is going for sure.
I have two quick theories. Mm-hmm. One, I wonder what the timing is of this movie, because is Banner's arm still in a sling from the snap? It's the same arm, I believe. So yeah. That's one theory. It doesn't explain why he's not Professor Hulk anymore. Yeah. But maybe something about snapping. I don't know. But
Endgame, everybody's come back.
Huh?
He snapped and came back, so it's definitely after Endgame.
Yeah, no, I know. He's the one that brought everybody back.
Yeah, so that's why I'm wondering, like,
Right. Remember, he snapped to bring everybody back, and then that's when. But we just didn't see everybody come back until after Captain America was almost got his ass whooped. I mean, he did get his ass whooped, until he was like almost no more. But it was Hulk snap that brought everybody back.
So maybe this is before he becomes Professor Hulk permanently?
No, because they talked about half the population disappearing.
But he was Professor Hulk
in Endgame.
Yes. Okay, you're right. Okay, yeah.
Yes. So that's one theory, that like his arm is still in a sling because his arm just never healed from snapping before. And then the other thing I was going to say is that I wonder if the beacon calling has anything to do with the Skrull invasion. I don't know. I don't know enough about anything. I just know beacon to somewhere, aliens, Skrulls are aliens that I know exist. And I know that a show is coming at some point. So don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, we also found out that the 10 rings are actually bracelets, and I'm not letting this go. All right, I'll let it go, but still.
No, you won't, because you're gonna keep referring to that, and that's okay.
No, all he needed was like a pair of hoops, some door knockers, and it would have been fine. But go ahead.
But yeah, so I mean, obviously, this is gonna tie into our MCU in a major way, because either we're getting some sort of new alien race or something that's coming along, or it's gonna tie some ends for us and make some connections for us. So I'm really excited to see like where that's going. Yeah, and I'm also excited to see if the new revamped Ten Rings is gonna be like good or
Or
bad
bad.
or somewhere in between, like anti-hero type stuff. Like we're gonna do some stuff for money, but we're gonna help out and do the good thing from time to time.
Probably do stuff for money, and then when Shang-Chi needs her to like help him save the world, and she's like, all right, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, like, but I'm here for it. I totally like that. I forgot to say one thing that I really want to say. I love that they didn't make Katie and Shang-Chi boyfriend and girlfriend, that they were just friends.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm so happy that we got to see like a platonic friendship in the movie. If
Hmm.
it grows, it grows. But
Right.
I'm happy that it wasn't this forced thing like how you